we now have another organization, which I don't think it's quite fair to say has been born out of CDS, but certainly been born in concert with CDS. We've mentioned it before. The CDN Alliance has formed. It has been launched. The champagne was smashed on the side of the boat last week, and I was lapping it off the side of the hull, as always. And in fact, I have to plug that we're going to be sponsoring the CDNA drinks at the IBC beach. So if you're going to IBC, meet me at the beach at 4, and I'm going to take a load of gate crashers over to Mark's event across the road, I'm promised, just from IBC. So with no more from me, let me find Mark. Mark, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here, Dom. Great to be
cool.
here again. Right.
Tell us all about the CDNA and take us through it.
Yes, thank you, Dom. Let me start by introducing my fellow founders of the CDN Alliance, Thijs de Zoete and Rico van Latem. They're both here as well. I'll do the presentation, but they are here. And if you have any questions on the CDN Alliance in the meantime, feel free to drop a question in the chat or the Q&A, and these guys will answer any questions that come by. So I'll drop into the presentation. Let me get my presentation. Share my screen. All right, good. One of my favorite sayings, and I'm thinking everybody can agree with this one, that we wouldn't have the internet as we know today without any CDNs, and we will not have the internet we want tomorrow without the CDNs as well. So let me start with the why and why the CDN Alliance has started. I mean, this is a long story, but I think it's important for you guys to know what the reason is why we're doing it. We're doing this not for any commercial goal, but really because we think the industry needs an organization like the CDN Alliance to move forward. And so let me go into the beginnings of it. So the CDN Alliance actually was born out of a need or out of frustration. So actually, me and Thijs were having drinks, having a dinner after before actually a session about CDNs and video streaming at the Media Guild in Rotterdam. And we were thinking, we both have an experience in CDNs, both on the technology side. That's for me more on the marketing and strategy side. And we were thinking, okay, how can we do more in the internet, in the CDN business itself? And we thought about, okay, let's look at how can we use our expertise that we've built up for training and education purposes, and eventually also certification. And while we were doing this and talking about this, we really found out that, hey, we can think about doing certification and training, but that doesn't, nobody's going to believe us in what we do because there is no overarching organization. And when we talked, we actually thought, okay, hey, actually there is no industry association for the CDN industry. So once we found out that, after the meeting, after frustration, like we can't really start anything because nobody would believe in what we're doing. So we really did some research about it. So is there nothing like this, like an industry association for the CDN industry? And we obviously didn't find any, whereas other industries that are related to what the CDN industry does do have a lot of other industry bodies, but the industry for the CDN industry didn't have any. So we really dug deeper into this and said, okay, we really need to do some real proper research. So we started talking about 60, 70 different people in industry. Are we onto something? Is there really nothing? Or is there a reason why there is nothing in the first place? So we really had to figure out, is there something new, or is there a reason why it's not there? And so we started talking with a lot of people, understanding what the pains were, what the needs were, what the challenges were. And along the way, we more and more understood that there's actually a need. There are pains, there are challenges, but there is no platform for people talking about it. And once we really looked at all the different challenges and all the discussions, we really thought, okay, there is a clear need. Everybody said, yes, this is a good idea what you're looking at, but we had to figure out what's the best way, knowing the history of the CDN industry and knowing how competitive the market space is, with all the different actors, the ecosystem, and how things are organized within the CDN industry. So we really had to move to figure out what is the best way of moving forward. So April 1st, we actually officially legally incorporated after more than a year of discussions and research. And in September this year, we officially launched. So we're now officially in the startup phase of the CDN Alliance. And we anticipate on starting what we call the acceleration phase in 22, but we're really just building up the organization right now. If you look to really tell what we do and why we do it, it's really understand just to take a look at our mission. And our mission basically is a way to really give a good idea about what we do. So we're really an independent nonprofit organization. So why independent and nonprofit? So the nonprofit is just to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing is really for the industry. We don't have any commercial goal. So what we started legally on April 1st is a foundation that is really a nonprofit organization with the goal to really help the industry. The second part is really important, is that it's independent. It's actually not something that we initially thought needed to do and start with just a few members. But based on the feedback that we had with 60, 70 people, we really understood that the only way forward is to really be completely independent. And the reason for this is that we heard from several players that if we would start with 2 or 3 or 4 different key players, the other ones would not join because it would be colored by those 3 or 4 players. So based on that feedback, and we heard this from multiple people, so not just from one person or whatever, but from multiple independent people, that they all thought the same thing. You really need to be completely independent to really build bridges between the ecosystem. So this was the basis for us to really go independent. Now, the second part of what our mission says basically is for whom we're doing this. So what we do, we really focus on the global CDN industry and CDN community. I mean, global, we mean really global. We don't look at a specific region. And actually, this was mentioned earlier in one of the presentations where they see this shift from US towards Europe, towards Asia, etc. CDN is really getting global. And we really believe this is a global industry. It's not related to a region. And it's actually a lot of stuff that we can learn from other regions than our own region that we're in. So we really have a global focus. We focus on 2 big elements. We focus on the CDN industry and the CDN community. CDN community is really all the people that are in the CDN industry. So the actual people that are working day out and day in, day out with CDNs, or are working at a CDN, or implementing CDNs, or anything to have a relationship with CDN in the work that they do. But this is really on a personal level. So it's just really on a people's level. The second part is really about the industry. So those are the actual companies. So if we look at the companies now, we define 4 different groups that we define as the CDN industry. And this is already one of the things I would want to lay out here. If I would ask any one of you what the CDN industry actually is, I would get a different opinion from everybody, because there is no real definition of what the CDN industry actually is. So we really looked at, okay, what do we define as CDN industry? And we define 4 different groups. So we call them CDN service providers. So those are companies that market or sell CDN services. Whether you own a network or not, doesn't matter. You market and sell CDN services. So those are the likes of the Akamai, Limelight, Fastly, et cetera, but also multi-CDN players, channel partners, resellers, all the companies that market and sell CDN services. The second group, what we focus on, is CDN technology providers. So those are companies that deliver technology, CDN technologies, or key components to build CDNs, right? This is software related. This is hardware related. These are data, GIP databases, for instance, or services they use, monitoring services or any other service that you use to build CDNs. That's the second group that we focus on. The third group that we focus on is ecosystem players. So ecosystem players are companies that do not deliver CDN services, right? They don't market sell CDN services. They do not provide technology or key components, but have a place in the ecosystem. So those are companies like ISPs, carriers, data centers, internet exchanges, but also system integrators. So anyone, and we call them the glue and the oil of the industry. So they really make things together or make sure that things work in the end. The fourth group is the CDN industry players. And those are the companies that actually are the customers of CDN service providers or customers of CDN technology providers that build their own CDNs. So those are the content providers, like Netflix or Disney or anyone else that is building their own CDNs, ISPs as well. And of course, anyone that uses CDN services from CDN service providers. Now, if you look at the whole group, a company, of course, can be in 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of those different groups. It's just to give a better indication of what we define as CDN industry. And we really focus on all 4 groups. And we also want to make sure that we build bridges between them. So if you look at us being independent, we are really able to be an independent party in making sure that these groups actually work together in the ecosystem. Now, if you look at our memberships, what we will be doing is there are 2 types of memberships. There's industry members, and those are the actual companies that become a industry member. And we have the community members, and that is on a personal level. But the industry members have need to pay a fee to become a member of it. The community members are completely free. Everybody on a personal level can become part of the community. This is completely free. We really want to make sure that these people come together in one single place. And the same is for the industry members. We really want to make sure that the industry members come together, but they pay a yearly fee to become a member of this. Now, as part of this, we also have what we call corporate members. And corporate members are individuals that are part of the community, but also work as an industry member. And these will have certain privileges that normal community members do not have. Why? Because the industry members pay for those capabilities that are there. This could be anything in relation to on the knowledge side, training side, information side, activities, events, etc., etc., etc. They have special capabilities there. That's the difference between a community member and eventually a corporate member. Now, it's funny that Jim Hall mentioned the CDN pillars because we call them in the exact same way. We focus on all 5 of the CDN pillars. So we're not focusing on media alone. We focus on the full spectrum. So we focus on static delivery, dynamic delivery, media delivery, security, and the edge part of it, all 5. We really believe that as a CDN industry, we really need to be able to focus on all 5 and not one single one. That's a big difference if you look at what we do, what, for instance, the StreamingMedia Alliance does, where they focus really on the media delivery part of it. We believe that that is really a big chunk of what's needed and where there's a lot of work needs to be done, but it's certainly not the only thing that needs to be worked on. There's a lot more involved. If you look at the gaming side of things, just pure downloads. If you look at anything on the dynamic delivery, there's still lots of stuff to do. And then we're not even mentioning security and the edge part of it. Now, the third part of what we do is really about what we actually want to do. So we really want to do 3 main things. We want to connect, we want to support, we want to represent. If you look at the connect part is really connecting people with people. So the community people, we want to make sure that everybody's able to connect, that there's a platform where people can actually connect. Today, there is no community platform where people that are like-minded in the CDN world are able to connect with each other. It's not there. And the same is for the industry members, right? For the industry members, the same thing. There is no place where industry members can really come together and work on things together. Yes, there's a StreamingMedia Alliance, but again, this is only the media area. We really want to look at a broader perspective. So that's the connecting part. We also want to connect the industry with the community. I'll give you a very simple example on this, just to give you, we'll come back to that later. But one of the biggest issues we found is actually getting the right people for jobs. And by making sure that we can connect the industry with the community in one single place, this can actually bring a lot of additional benefits for both sides. What we also want to do on the connecting side is make sure that we connect the CDN industry as a whole, so industry community together as an industry towards other industries. For now, there is no capability for any other to connect with the CDN industry. There's just no body as such. We really want to make sure that we are able to connect with, but also be able to connect with others to the benefit of the CDN industry. The second part is really the support part of it. And the support is really our activities. And our activities are typically in relation of events. If you look at working groups, research, all kinds of other activities that we typically want to do. And typically those activities are initiated by the CDN Alliance. We talk with a lot of people and we really figure out, okay, there's a need in this area. We initiate that as a CDN Alliance. However, our members, our industry members, actually decide what needs to be worked on at what priority. So we only initiate, we see things, and then it's up to our members to decide, yes, this is the part you're going to work on. Also, with every activity we do, really look at our mission. Does it support what we want to do with our mission? And it always needs to benefit our members. So in everything we do as part of our activities, these are the four main drivers for those activities. Now, one of the things that we did with the 60, 70 people, and later on as part of our questionnaire that we did as well within the industry, is define different challenges. And actually, the biggest challenge that we found out was actually for the CDN industry to understand that there is actually a challenge, or there are challenges actually. And we would call this the tackling we don't have a problem syndrome. The CDN industry so far really thought it didn't have really had any challenges. It always has reports, but once we talked more and more with people, we figured out that there were challenges. And once we put those challenges to other people, they all got that aha moment. Yes, actually, yes, you're right. Didn't thought about that, but yes, it's actually a challenge. And once we talked more and more with more people, they really got to understand, okay, yes, there are actually challenges in the market. We just have never identified them. So what we did then is really capturing those challenges and try to figure out a way to make them a little bit more easy to understand, because it's been a pretty difficult thing. And also, where in the industry are they applicable? Because a lot of the challenges are not really well defined. So after all the discussions and the industry questionnaire, we already came out with a subset of challenges that we already found out. Now we have three types of grouping that we did on the challenges side. So we call them industry challenges, corporate challenges, and individual challenges. So industry challenges are challenges that we only as an industry can solve if we work together on this. Very simple. Sustainability, it's already a topic with a lot of CDNs in the first place. Reachability, certification as an industry, as a CDN industry, can only be solved if we work together on this. The fragmentation part of it, right? One of the trends we're seeing, and this is something also we got feedback from a lot of people, is that there's fragmentation going on in the CDN space. I mean, you already see this happening in discussions we have today. All the different capabilities on how you can do content distribution, this will fragment the market. And there is no way, it's already very difficult for people to understand outside of the market and even within the market, and it's getting even worse. So fragmentation is a part. Standardization, etc., etc. So there are a couple of a lot of elements on the industry side we could already identify just by talking to a lot of people. Now, corporate challenges are challenges that we see as companies that are reinventing the wheel themselves. So this could be any part of the ecosystem, doesn't matter. But they are reinventing the wheel. So they are solving a challenge that is in the CDN space on their own, because there are no other ways of doing this. So they solve the challenge, but everybody is this silo on their own. We believe by doing this together, at least for certain challenges, at least, by doing this together, centralized, we can solve this together, and then everybody can benefit from this. And this will eventually help the industry move forward. And the last group that we define is what we call individual challenges. And I give you a very simple example. Basically, the information, education, training, and certification, all that is very difficult for individuals to get by. Whether this is getting information about CDNs, whether this is about education, getting training, getting certified, all those capabilities are individual challenges. And networking is a challenge, but it's all on the individual level. So every person has those challenges, or a lot of persons have those challenges. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples on the challenges. If you look at industry challenges, one of them is standardization. I know a lot of people think about this. It's a very difficult word in CDN world, and I fully agree. That's why I'd rather call it normalization than calling it standardization. I don't think we're ready yet as an industry to look at really standardization. But the fact is, the bottom line, CDN industry as the industry itself does not have any standards. Yes, we are built based on open standards that are used within the CDN industry, but as an industry itself, we don't have any. And it's not just on the technology side. So the SPA is doing great work in getting standardization and normalization in certain areas, and the interoperability part of it. But we also look at the definition part of it. If we look at just definitions in CDN space, there are no standards there as well. And that is something that we believe is one of the first core things that we need to work on, is really get those definitions normalized, preferably even in the end standardized. But that's one of the challenges that we already saw. Another one is regulation. I know Indra mentioned this a couple of times. Regulation was never a topic in the CDN industry. However, with the outages that happened last year, that word has come up several times in the discussions that we had with different industry players, that they are afraid of certain regulations. And this is already happening in the cloud space. Certain regulations are already happening in the UK, for instance. There's a directive right now for the financing area, and it's just a matter of time before regulation at some point might hit the CDN business, CDN market. It's not always a bad thing that a regulation happens within the industry, but it's something that at least we need to be taken care of, because if we don't have a voice, we are able to tell on how regulation should be happening, then we will be regulated as an industry, and we don't have any say in it, and we just have to follow what is being regulated. And we don't believe as an industry that is in the best interest as an industry. Another part is the privacy part of it. So if you look at the corporate side, if you look at GDPR, if you look at CCPA, there's a lot of new privacy laws coming in effect globally. And it's getting more and more difficult for CDNs to comply with every privacy law around the globe. And this is for every individual CDN player or anyone that is using CDN. They have the same issue. We believe that by bringing that centralized and being able to get that information centralized, being able to distribute that again, for instance, is something that we can work on. Because if we don't do this, and this is similar to the regulation end of it, we're not able, we just have to follow on what kind of regulations are there on the privacy side. We believe that we can actually influence this and change this on how this is done before it's too late. Otherwise, we just have to follow any directives that are given by any privacy regulation body. Another one, which I mentioned a little bit earlier already, is vacancies. Right? We were pretty surprised by this particular challenge, is that finding the right people in the industry is extremely difficult. And this has two reasons. One is it's very difficult to connect people with the right companies and vice versa. So there's because it's unclear where to get the actual candidates from. On the other side, candidates don't really know where to get the actual jobs from. That's an issue, but it's also that there are no new people coming into the industry that are able to be educated and trained and certified to be able to get those new people into the industry. And this is actually this feedback that we got from several players. Actually, some companies asked us, actually, can you develop training material for us to make sure that we can train people the right way, because we don't have the resources and capabilities to actually do all that training material. On the individual side, it's really hard to find information, right? If you're an individual person, Google is your best friend. It's very difficult to find the right information. And if you can find it, it's very difficult to verify this. There is no network of people where you can really ask questions. There are some specific, you have video dev and some other specific ones, but specifically on the CDN side, there is no place where you can drop your questions on CDN specifically. And it's sure we can't have all the information as an organization, but we can certainly be a starting point for a lot of other directors. And the last part is the networking part of it. A lot of people have circles of people that they know, but getting in touch with other people in an easy to understand environment is very difficult. It's very difficult to get new people, especially if you look at geo-based. So where are the CDN people in my country or in my region? And where is the ones that are interesting for me to look at? The last part is, so that's basically the vision that we have. What we're really looking at right now is really to get as much people involved in the CDN Alliance on the community level, on the industry level, and on the crew level. So if you are looking at it, potentially interested in joining the CDN Alliance as an industry member, there are lots of capabilities there and possibilities that you can have. You can join us as a community level member. Again, this is completely free, so everybody can join this. And you can also join us as a crew member. We just recently announced our 10 crew members that are going to be added to the organization. But of course, we're always happy to have more in what we do. Last but not least, as Dom already mentioned, we have the CDN Alliance Connect at IBC. On Friday, December 3rd from 6 to 9. It's RSVP, but everybody is welcome to come and network and talk about CDN, of course, at IBC, and it's sponsored by Ideas, 3Q, Analytics, and MPOL. Thank you. Tom.
Well, of course, I'll be at the drink session. How do you pronounce the name of the bowling?
It's called Knijn.
Knijn, right.
It's
cool.
really in the opposite of the right, on the other side. The 5-minute one.
And will there be bowling there? That's an extra perk.
Probably, yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll be at the beach at 4, and I'll drag everyone I can possibly bring over there for a few beers at 6 o'clock, Mark. So that's excellent, and all power to you, Enrico and Thies, for such an excellent initiative. I'm delighted. It's taken, I can't believe it's really taken about 25 years for the CDN Alliance to form. It should have been formed about 20 years.
We're absolutely not there. We just started, right? 2 months old, but we're really going forward with this.